And we're live. Hi everyone. I am Jiraiya, the Canadian chapter leader for Frontend Foxes and a front-end developer and designer at Commerce.js. So I'm really excited to have you all here today. We're doing a kickoff to the most exciting time of the year for the open source community, and that's Hacktoberfest. We will be chatting all things open source, pull requests, swag, contributions, and all that stuff. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your weekends here to join me, and extra thanks to people tuning in to our stream today. So I want to introduce some ladies I have here joining me today. First, I want to introduce you to Jen Looper, who is the CEO of Frontend Foxes and a cloud advocate lead at Microsoft. So I'll turn it over to you to give us a brief introduction. That'll be great, Jen.
Oh, hi, everyone. So I'm delighted to join you on our second stream. It's our Foxes Fireside chat stream. And our hashtag is what, Jiraiya?
Foxes Fireside Chat. Yeah,
Foxes Fireside Chat. So I expect to see lots and lots of tweets, lots and lots of social engagement. My name's Jen. I'm the founder and president of Frontend Foxes, formerly Vue Vixen. So happy to have you on the stream, and very excited for Hacktoberfest. We did Hacktoberfest last year, so this is our second one, and we're a little more organized this year, so we have some great plans for you, and we'd love to talk to you about it. I'm at Microsoft. I'm on the academic team, and in my spare time, I run this foundation. So thanks for listening. Thanks for hopping in.
And Vanessa, if you could give us a brief introduction as well, it'd be really great.
Yeah, so good evening from Germany. I'm Vanessa, or Vanse. I work as a software developer at the Live company, so I'm back in the startup business, trying to struggle to find time to contribute to open source too. But I'm also lucky that I can do that at the work to contribute to open source when I need it. And I'm happy to be here and excited about Hacktoberfest with the lovely colors this year.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, ladies. So as I mentioned, today we are, and Jen spoke briefly about it, we are here doing our episode 2 of the Foxes Fireside Chat series, which is a fortnightly or monthly live stream fireside chat where we get all of us together in the Frontend Foxes community, as well as people who identify as women that are in our community, to chat all things new technologies and things that are happening. It also serves as a platform for us to have an opportunity to have an open interaction. So feel free during the duration of this live stream, pop in the comments, ask us any questions you have, and we'll try to answer as soon as we can. So we'll try to be as interactive as possible. So for those of you joining us for the first time, just an introduction on Frontend Foxes. It's an international nonprofit initiative founded by Jen Looper. And it promotes diversity in developer communities and creates and hosts workshops to teach front-end technologies to people who identify as women in a supportive and inclusive environment. So at the core, really, of what we do at Frontend Foxes is open source. We have an open platform, open education, and open mentoring, open community. So it's important that we champion people coming into open source for the first time. And especially to women. So roughly only about 10% of women are open source developers, and open source and nonprofit organizations are working to bring this parity to the community. So that's why we're so thrilled to be here celebrating the Hacktoberfest festival. So let's get into what exactly Hacktoberfest is. So I want to, open up our discussion right now to talk about Hacktoberfest and why we're so excited, to be a part of this. So Hacktoberfest is a month-long celebration that is put together by DigitalOcean, and it's running for seven years now. It's presented by Intel and Dev.to. So it really is a time to encourage open source projects, products, companies to accept contributions from the community and to make it as accessible as possible. So if you go on this website, to hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com, you would need to have a GitHub account. And if you don't, it's free to sign up. You would need to sign up as a participant with your GitHub credentials. And that's when you'll start to be able to pick and choose your issues from the list of issues on this website that are labeled with Hacktoberfest. Pick that and claim the issue, and then you'll start to be able to put pull requests towards those. So yeah, now I want to open up the session and the fireside chat that's the main reason why we're here today, to chat all about Hacktoberfest and open source. So I want to pose this question first to ask what you think open source is and what does it mean to you?
Vanessa, you got the shirt, so I think you should go.
Yeah, I got the shirt from last year, 2019. And I actually received it because of the first contributions guide they had on Hacktoberfest, because I also didn't contribute to open source before, or not really heavily. And what I also did was, for the view workshops of the Frontend Foxes, was that I added the German translations. So that's not coding. And it was, for me, it was a rather simple task to translate English to German. But with that, I received this cool t-shirt. And when I was on some workshops about Vue, people were also really happy that it was in German. For me, it is kind of usual to speak English at work. I'm from Munich, that's a rather English-speaking city. But I had we had attendees at these workshops who were from more villages, or not like these bigger cities from Germany, and they're just not usual to speak so much English all of the time. And they really had advantages of this German translation. So that was really nice to see. And I also could work on making pull requests on GitHub on a fork repository. Also, that was a new thing for me, working as a software developer for 5 or 6 years now, working with GitLab, with GitHub and Bitbucket. And there I was like, how do I do a contribution to another repository that's not in my work area? I don't know that. And that is kind of cool to test that out with a translation first.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, by the way, for those translations, because it's really important to have good translations of all of our workshops. It really helps. That's wonderful. So thank you for that. Yeah. I would say that for me, open source is all about education, and it's about learning. It's really a wonderful thing to be able to go into all the different repositories and take a look at, how people are formatting and structuring their code, what best practices they're using, and look at, like, when something isn't working, you go to the library that you're using and you start digging into issues and that sort of thing. You see, this other person's having the same problem and this is how they solved it. So it's really about, it's almost like opening an endless book that you can just like read and read and read and read and read and scan to get information and to learn more. So I really appreciate. I came up in the 2000s with Cold Fusion, so I know it's like 3,000 years ago, but that's all closed source, right? And honestly, it's a completely different paradigm. You're buying courses and you're hiring consultants to help you, and you're reading books and handbooks and documentation and trying to figure out what the heck is going on behind the scenes. So this is nice that we have much more visibility into the way software is crafted, and it's really pushing the web forward because we're all working together out in the open, and I love that. It's great.
Yeah, those are great points. And really with what you said about contributing to your first, making your first pull request, Vanessa, to documentation. Documentation really should not be devalued. Documentation really, and especially with a translation, that's exactly what makes it accessible, for people globally to take part in, doing their first commits to to publicly designed software, as compared to what Jen mentioned about closed software, proprietary software, where that's completely closed off. And I think open source opens up a huge chance for people to, come in for the first time to get themselves educated, especially to be able to come in, look at a code source, to be mentored by, maintainers, doing peer reviews, and all that process. I think that's part of the whole education of open source. So that leads into my next question. How do you think open source can help new developers coming into the space? If people are thinking of coming in to make their getting involved with Hacktoberfest first, as well as making their first contribution to an open source software.
My mind went back to, I think, Kent Dodd's website called Best
React Testing, right?
Yeah.
He's known for.
Yeah, but way back in the day, he created Best First Issue or something like that. It was kind of like one of his ideas of really allowing maintainers to flag good first issues. And I feel like he also has a website where people are logging or remembering their first contributions to open source too. So I think he's a very good person to follow if you're a new developer and you get to kind of get inspired to learn new things. But this idea of maintainers having the power using tags in GitHub or GitLab to flag, this is a good thing to start with. This is a good first issue. Honestly, it's a great way to just look. I'm gonna let Vanessa talk, and I'm gonna try to dig up that website.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
What I recently had just a conversation with a friend of mine who is a lead developer at a company, and they decided they wanted to hire a lot more juniors because they had the senior strategy before, and that was like, why should we only always hire seniors with like 5+ whatever years of experience? What should you do when you came fresh out of university or fresh out some workshops and tutorial you did eventually by yourself? And usually you don't need to have open source to get better in your job role as a developer, but it might also be depending on the fact at the company you're working for. They had problems guiding these young people through the process of pull requests, and like in CSS centering vertically with Flexbox and Grid CSS, they were so long already in their job that they usually are more focused on onboarding on company-related things, on company-related code bases, but not thinking or being able to be that good mentor at the beginning for also to guide through pull requests or explain Git branches and explain what the develop branch is, what Git fork is, how Tower works, and all of these things, because you don't learn that at university. You learn, I don't know, I can't remember anymore, Java eventually, but I did learn how to use Git in university, and having open source there and also the community behind, and then something like Hacktoberfest where there's a guide how to do that, and having labels like first, what is this called? First
good issue.
Yeah, first good issue, yeah. And a good friend of mine who's working on Preact, Marvin Hagenmeister, he always tweets about, okay, we have a new issue. If you want to get into open source, here's this issue and the GitHub link. And this is also something really new always then for me as not a new developer, because I'm used to write websites all of the time. And with different frameworks. I'm not used to write JavaScript for a framework, so like the compiler code. And this was something completely new for me then, there I could learn a lot. And I was looking at this first issue in a completely new world for me and could, again, learn something.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I found the website I think I was looking for. It's First Timers Only by Kent Dodds. It's part of his blog, and I put the link in private chat. I don't know how we can get that.
Okay. I will pop that into the banner.
And
that's a great resource to share.
Yeah, and in that he references makeapullrequest.com. So, and then he has this my first pull request talk, which is really, really helpful. So somehow if we can get those links out.
So we can show this, but and we can share it in the comments as well. I'll pop that into the comments.
I think calling out the Preact community is really smart because that's such a kind of friendly and
Oh, yes.
great open source friendly bunch of people. They're super. Martin's awesome.
Yeah, and then talking about Preact, then also thinking of Vue and Svelte. Both of these frameworks, or all three frameworks, are like the main free frameworks I'm using, and I'm using all of them for different kind of problems. But all three of them were simple to start with for me. So I had the problem, I read through the documentation, understood how it should be used, and if I can use it for my problems. So if we wouldn't have open source software, we wouldn't have Preact, Vue, and Svelte. So I basically would have no job.
Yeah, that's true. We do rely on this for our job as JavaScript developers.
Yeah, it's funny, I guess, as developers maybe coming into the space, as a newcomer or once I've been in for a while, just thinking that really we have, these are tools that as developers and companies that we have been using for a long time, open source software. We might not realize it. And, even as if we're purely just consuming it for the first time, but consuming open source software to start out with, you're able to then, go through the usage and see what is missing, and then you might be able to put up, your first documentation to be like, hey, I'm a big user of your open source software, and I want to be able to make a contribution to just edit this part of the documentation to make it a bit more clear. And as you use it, you might want to implement a new feature. See something that sticks out. So yeah, then that whole process starts, once you start consuming it, and then you start to be a contributor as well. So that's great. Yeah. So now, if you don't have anything else to add, now I want to talk about. So now, what we think are some ways to contribute, for newcomers getting involved for the first time.
Yeah. So, and we probably should just mention that Hacktoberfest has gotten a little controversial this year. I don't know if you're following some of the chat.
Yes, yeah, we have been. Yeah, DigitalOcean really has been, trying to iron that out, and they've been doing a great job at it.
They had a good blog post on how they're going to be working through this next year, but I think the guy who's working on Hacktoberfest is like one guy. I feel like he's in college. So
yeah.
It's a lot. So I think a great way to contribute would be to make as meaningful a contribution as you can. A lot of folks are, not a lot of folks, but some people are doing spammy pull requests, and that's what maintainers are complaining about this Hacktoberfest, making a one period change or even like uncorrecting, making mistakes in readmes, that kind of thing. That's not what we're looking to do, right? So we would love to encourage folks to make those meaningful contributions and, maybe look through what are being asked for, in the issues that people may have tagged as, good issue to take up for the first time, or first timers only, good first issue, or even the Hacktoberfest label. Grab something like that, see if anything like that appeals to you. But other than that, contributing to the READMEs, to the docs, to the translations, to the actual code base, to all sorts of things, CI/CD, GitHub Actions, all the good stuff. It's all open. It's all able to contribute.
It really isn't about, that's where the whole spammy, bots came in, spammy pull requests, trying to get as many pull requests in as possible. But really for anyone, you should really take this chance, to make it a process for an education if this is your first time. As a maintainer, these are people that are either doing it for free open source software, or doing it as part of a company. But they are putting in their time to go through that peer review process, and it's about trying to put in a quality pull request as opposed to quantifying it. So take this chance as something to learn. So I think that's what people should keep in mind.
Vanessa, what do you think is like a great pull request? Like what's your ideal pull request?
It depends.
Yeah.
But usually something that increases the code base by a tiny bit. We also had a question here in the chat. This is kind of similar, but also different. The question was, how can you get over the fear of trying to do a contribution? Because I think on the one hand side, we have this question, how to find something to contribute, how to decide, is it a README, is it a documentation, is it the real code of a code base? But then also the first time, how does it feel like? What friends of mine had was that they had a JavaScript craft camp where we met, and the registration was actually by pull requests. And this was, I think, actually this was my first open source contribution, where they had the website hosted on GitHub, and they had a folder participants, and then you should create your Wanzel.json and edit. And as you might not have the chance to have something like this currently somewhere where you can do a contribution, but what you always can do is to fork any repository on GitHub, even if you don't plan to contribute. But if I go looking for issues and I see an issue in Preact, I'm like, I don't know how compilers work, but I can fork it, I can read it for a while, I even can see the changes the others are doing, and then get a feeling of this code base. And maybe after a while, a new first-time issue comes in, and then I'm like, okay, I know the code base already, I try that out now. And in the end, there's nothing that could happen. If the code base is made for open source, there will be tests that run automatically, so they can stop you before adding a pull request that might fail your specs, and you have the time to fix them. And as I said, usually nothing bad can happen if you don't have bad things in mind, like getting a t-shirt for free for a dot in a README.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that for contributing, that to make a fork version of it, as opposed, I think, people might think that, oh, I just need to make a clone, and that makes a clone of it in my local environment, and that doesn't make any connection to the upstream origin. So after we plan to walk through the contributing process, and Jen can sort of point that out as well, but you would want to go on the repository, make a fork of it, then that makes a copy onto your GitHub account, which you can then clone, save as onto your local environment. And then that makes that connection once you put up a pull request, and it, as it comes in, then it pings the maintainer to make that comparison to pull in and merge your pull request.
Yeah, and I would say start small. I have a massive pull request that I made to TensorFlow. It's still because
the one that takes a long time to
no way,
carry.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good contribution. It really was. I mean. But then they deprecated that whole chunk of it. So I was like,
no.
It's still there. It's still like outstanding. I'm like, just close it. Like, it's not happening. The contrib file, the contrib library of TensorFlow was deprecated after they moved to 2.0. So but I would say start small and communicate with maintainers. Maybe it's a good idea to just reach out and say, I'd like to do X. Do you mind if I take a look at this, and then follow through? That's really helpful. That's what's been happening with this month at Frontend Foxes. A lot of people have been reaching out, and we've been working together, as opposed to just like slamming a monster amount of code into the contrib area of TensorFlow and hoping that, run up a flagpole, see if someone salutes,
But this is also how it would work at work. You wouldn't come as a new developer to a new code base and say, okay, here's this ticket. I only understand half of it because they used their own languages and Word and some other company-based genre. And then you would speak to the manager or tech lead or even to a colleague who's just there longer than you. And then you get into a discussion. And I think what I learned being on conferences and so on is to get rid of the fear of talking to open source software developers or talking to speakers. They are people and they are usually really happy if you just talk to them. And I forked a while ago the Tailwind CSS landing page, and I recreated that form, for example, for Nuxt. So I didn't have to come up with new CSS. I just used the one from the Tailwind CSS landing page, rewrote it in a Nuxt application, and after a while, I received pull request on that fork repository because of an SVG update or something. That felt pretty nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's another great use case for open source, like I mean, it's okay to borrow and to reuse and to, we're all borrowing each other's stuff. It's a different thought paradigm, but we're all learning from each other's code and borrowing and improving.
Yeah. Exactly. To contribute it together as a community to scale it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing people can eventually contribute to, because that would help me a lot, is the project at work we are doing is an e-learning platform. And we are using the open source reader view of Mozilla to get articles on the platform and have it in this just nice reader view mode. But unfortunately, not all of the websites out there are having a good semantic HTML. So the structure of these pages can go just missing in the reader view if they don't have this H1, H2, H3, and so on and so forth. And I found some articles that just the whole introduction was missing, or the anchor links were broken. For example, in the reader view, it only takes HTML elements which contain text, and they had anchor links in their paragraph, an empty paragraph only containing the anchor link, and then the anchor link wasn't put into the reader mode, and my anchor links didn't work anymore. That's not a nice behavior. And our first thought at work were, okay, maybe we can't use that. And when we were like, but why? We can. It's open source. We can contribute if we find these anchor link errors. We can find a technical way to solve the solution to get this anchor tag right now. So in the next months, I might be working on the Mozilla open source reader view, I think it's called, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And they had, I think we found 2 or 3 other projects that are doing the same, not open source, and they were pretty expensive. So I like to spend money on good things, but they were like not good, really expensive. So the open source was by far the best one out there, and I guess because of the contributions and because of the diverse people that are using that too.
For sure. There's a beautiful question by Melissa.
So I can pop that in. Melissa in the chat asks, I'm searching issues and every one I click seems to already be assigned or have a bunch of people queued to be assigned. Any tips for finding issues that aren't already being worked on?
Frontend Foxes has many issues. Is there any automated way that you can sift through GitHub and look for open issues for Hacktoberfest that aren't assigned yet? I don't know, actually.
I am trying to go on the website right now and see if there's a way. I'm not sure because you can't normally do that on repos that have filters already anyhow with the issues, but
I wonder if the big repos have that problem more than the little repos or the community repos. I wonder if are you looking in a different place? Are you looking at the Vue code base or something as opposed to Angular Girls or Pioneeras or Women Who Code. Maybe take a look at some of those community repos.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so seeing, I mean, yes, as it stands, there are over, oh yeah, so I can send this filter actually. It's a filter that actually says no assignee.
Yeah,
So
I found it too.
yeah.
And Melissa, you're mentioning about your own project. Hacktoberfest says, yes, you can get points for contributing to your own projects, but it's discouraged. So that's one of the reasons I don't have a t-shirt, because I'm always creating stuff and then folks contribute to me.
Yeah. Almost 40,000 open issues as it stands. So there a lot for the picking for sure.
Oh, is open, is issue, no assignee, labeled Hacktoberfest. Yeah. There you go. Rock on.
So yeah, that'll be a lot to come through.
Well, TIL, that's awesome.
That's great.
Although I also would say that it's not a big deal if the issue is already taken. You can still work on that. Eventually, the other pull requests will get merged first. Yes, that can happen, but you will get for yourself still the same result. You worked on a bit of code, you did something outside of work, saw another architecture, saw another rules of how to make branches and so on and so forth. So you still have something for yourself.
That's true.
Yeah. And again, that takes back to, the intention of, wanting to come in and learn as opposed to, getting a t-shirt, right? So.
Oh, the other thing about the t-shirt is apparently you can also opt out of the t-shirt and ask them to plant a tree.
Yeah.
Sure. Which is nice.
That's an amazing initiative. I think it should only really be that. I think we all have enough t-shirts to go around, from all the conferences.
And I do think
past years.
I do think they should make Hacktoberfest opt-in for maintainers. We had what they called, on Dev 2, they called it Preptember. So we Preptembered for Hacktoberfest.
Right.
And we all just looked at the issues and flagged the ones we wanted people to look at. I think that's the most straightforward way.
I think that's actually the solution that the Hacktoberfest project came up with. Well, after listening to the maintainers, how to really resolve all the spamming problem that was going on. So for a project, you can actually opt in to add a topic labeled as Hacktoberfest, and that opens up the project to receive contributions. So I think as of yesterday, so for any pull requests that come in before that won't count. That's starting, yesterday. So it has to be any projects with that topic label.
Yeah. Very good.
Let's see, we have another question.
It's an interesting question.
The
answer is very easily, and it depends.
So how do you build a business on the open, and how do you make money from, I'm guessing from the open source software?
Well, the way it's been working for me is that you're not directly monetizing your open source software. What you're doing is you're building your credibility as a community builder, and you're building your credibility as a developer, and that will help you level up in your job. So it's like you're kind of building your credibility, and this is the way you do it. But you're never, unless you're someone like Evan, who has a lot of people on Open Collective who are contributing directly to him for being a full-time maintainer. I think that's a quite rare case, but it's just because Vue is so popular and such a big repo that he can manage to do that. For the rest of us, it's like you have these two pillars of your existence. You have your open source stuff, your community stuff, and then you have your job. That's kind of how it's worked for me. Then again, I'm a developer advocate. So Vanessa, you probably have a different perspective.
Yeah, kind of the same. So it is currently how the world works, that you get money from your manager and from the company you're working for, and that on open source it is difficult. And I wouldn't even say that we should, if we even had that money, give money out there, because I think it's a really difficult thing. But I would compare it to other people doing, for example, podcasts. There are great, for example, software podcasts out there, for example, Ladybug, and they don't get money per episode. They are not actors who get paid by someone. But you also, all of the people are able to contribute somehow. On YouTube, you can do advertisement. That's one way to do. But you also can buy abos of podcasts that you really like. And with only €1 a month, for example, you can already contribute then to this open source software. And eventually you will have money from that.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel like it's something that you want to kind of cultivate as a culture, I'd encourage everyone to, if you can, contribute to someone's, some open source maintainers open collective or Patreon. I contribute to NativeScript because they were spun off from Progress, and now it's a small company that's managing them. And I want to make sure that that's an open source project that I want to make sure stays alive. So it's a nice thing to do if you want to toss a couple coins into the Patreon.
Yeah, for me, it's totally like taking and giving back. So I took a lot more open source software than I wrote. As I already said, without Vue, I might not have the job I'm currently having. And it took me a while with the first contributions and translation and documentations. But just today, since I'm also very lucky to use Vue free at work on production, after 2 days, I found out, okay, I'm using Vue free now, but there are not so many plugins like for Vue 2. And then I was like, yeah, but why should I wait for other people on Friday night update their things? Mm-hmm. So 1 hour ago, I published the Npm package for the Vue free sanitize that I need for the reader view because it's HTML. So nice. After 5 years, I didn't give them money for that, but eventually I could give some other people now again something. And I think this is somehow how the cycle works.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So you're a maintainer now. So we're going to start working.
I added the Hacktoberfest label already.
Did you? Have a good job.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Okay. Jen, do you want to walk through the contributing process?
Yeah,
now?
Sure. So I'll tell you what we've been up to. I'll just show you this screen so you can pop my screen live. So what I have done is what we're hoping for is a new website for Frontend Foxes. I want it dramatically simplified from what we've currently got, and I would love to have it in Vue 3. So we're well on our way. If you take a look at ff-web in Frontend Foxes repo, I have several flagged issues. People have been, talking to me about. Actually, I think I can close this one. They've been, asking, like, I'll show you how this is looking, for example. So this fellow, very nice guy from Bolivia, said, how do you want this thing done? Because I need my Teams page pushed into Cloudinary. So because we're using Cloudinary to host our images, he can't do that directly. So we worked together. He zipped up the file, sent it to me, and then I made some more changes, and here we go, and merged his PR, and now he's got his Hacktoberfest cred. Actually, I made 2 issues for Alex because it was kind of a complicated task. So I've flagged several of these that need working on as Hacktoberfest worthy. Here's what the website currently looks like. I'll give you all a sneak peek of our lovely website. Right now, I've got issues about, I want this fixed up on the events page. I'm not happy with the way it looks. We need to do something about these images. On sponsors, this needs to be built out. With same as like with the team page. Teams is pretty much done, so that's exciting. I'm happy about that. The gallery, we have to figure out what to do. But those are the kind of the areas that I'm looking at. And then I would love to have the translations for this website like we had with the earlier website. It's going to be a lot of work. That's a big one. There needs to be a flag at the top, and then everything should switch around. But that's a considerable amount of work that needs doing. But the code base is pretty standard. I'm just using Tailwind, CSS, and Vue 3. And I'm hoping that we can use MITT to allow, because we used to use Event Bus, but that's been deprecated in Vue 3. So we need to use MITT to allow for the translation pages to shift. I'm getting rid of all CMSs, and I'm just putting all of our data in nice little JSON files so we can manage this and maintain it. And it'll be even more out in the open than what we've got now. So that's kind of where I'm at. And you can please feel free to hop into Frontend Foxes on GitHub and grab one of these, chat with me, and let's work together. And here's another one that I need, an accessibility audit. And someone raised their hand on this one, but you know what? For me, first come, first serve. Let's get this done. And I would be ecstatic to get organized with this stuff. So thank you.
I will share our Slack community link.
Whoop, that got weird.
Inception.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just shared our Slack community link for anyone who wants to, oh, the solution.
Sorry.
Yeah, for anyone who wants to hop in to our community, we would love to, chat you through the process, any questions you have. Yeah.
I think we already covered the topics of how contribute to already existing open source repositories, but what about like opening a new repository, or also why work for free? I could have just made a private NPM package or do something else where I would actually get money for. And I would say that I think of the most important advantage of making that open source is that the product eventually will get better with the whole community looking and thinking with you for the thing. Like it was on Vue, like Evan, you had the idea, and then the community said, okay, we might need this, we might need that. Okay, this is also nice, but we don't need that. And in the end, now this is this just lovely framework so many people love to use. If you don't have these diversity of users that are already in the process of you building the product, you might have not ended up with that product. You might have had a side project that you forget about in a while again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think as you build it out, you get so siloed into, just developing, then you really just hit a ceiling where you're like, I don't know how else to scale it because I don't know what else we need. Right. So when you open it up to the community, and that's when the community will tell you, I'm starting to depend on this project. I think we might need this feature pulled in. So I think that's really important. If you plan on scaling an open source software.
Mm-hmm. There's an excellent learning path on Microsoft Learn call for Node.js, and it's teaching you all about Node.js, including, packages and package lock files and all of the stuff that we always, we're supposed to know, but we kind of forget. And one of the cool things that was said was that open source is actually more secure. And it's kind of interesting to think about this idea because it's basically like what Vanessa was saying. It's like, there's more people contributing to it. People have their eyes on different issues. There's more a diversity of opinion, and so there's more a diversity of experience going into your code base. So that's one of the shout outs for open source as opposed to closed source to answer a question up here. Why would I want to open up my software?
Mm-hmm. I want to see if... Yeah, well, for anyone else that has any questions, feel free to ask us in the comments right now or join our community Slack. I don't have any questions on my end, but we can, anything else we want to discuss or point out.
Are we offering swag for good questions and good hashtags, or how are we doing this?
What do you think, Jen? I think in our last session we had a lot of really input and attendees tuning in and tweeting us. So we shipped out. Well, Vanessa likely was able to ship out some of our Foxy socks to a viewer in Germany. So that was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
happy to pass some socks over. Lord knows I've got enough.
yeah,
Very cool now.
So yeah, I will share the. I think it'll be nice if I just pop this in Fox's Fireside chat.
And also, if you contribute on our Hacktoberfest label on GitHub, I'll send you some socks to go with your shirt. They will clash like, well, actually, yeah, what's the color this year for Hacktoberfest? It's pink, right?
Yeah, it's almost like last year, well, the color scheme, but
it's going to be such a clash. It's because
hey,
blue and orange, you know.
It's 2020. I don't think we're all so worried about our attire these days, but as long as we're comfortable and warm. So yeah, so we'll be really happy if you let us know what you thought about our session today, what you found valuable, or any questions you have. Any ideas for the next upcoming session, tweet at us with this hashtag. And we will pick someone at random to give out some Foxy socks.
Sounds great. Appreciate all your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah. And yeah, let's all can wrap it up at that. And yeah, please, again, join our community in the private chat I've shared or in our comments. And yeah, we can't wait to receive your contributions and, even raise issues that you might have. So
some interesting questions coming through about Node.
Yeah, we can.
Which is crazy. I totally agree with you on that.
Okay. So the question is, for any given Node JS project, the number of dependencies seem crazy, and how specifically the dependencies need to be satisfied. Is this a good end state for Node.js? Do we think?
Yeah, you're right. It is an awful lot of packages that get installed just for like a simple website, for sure. Honestly, it's one of those yes and no questions. Yes, it's good to have lots and lots of, like I said, diversity in your code base so that you can make sure that all the end users and edge cases are satisfied. On the other hand, we've seen situations in the Node.js ecosystem where people decide to blow away or unpublish really important packages. Remember LeftPad? There's a lot of crashing and burning going on. So I think the Node Foundation has ideas around this and how to manage very important packages, making sure that they have some kind of lasting power. But yeah, it's a good and a bad thing, right?
Yeah. So for the Npm packages, and I remember the LeftPad thing a while ago, I just mentioned that I published an Npm package just an hour ago, and it is unbelievably easy. You only have to create an account at npm.js, get into your terminal and sign in with the username and your password, and then you have eventually Webpack or Rollup that bundles your code into a dist folder. Eventually, we have even a CLI doing that for you. And then you only write npm publish. And that's basically it. You eventually might have to have some knowledge about versioning and semantic versioning, but it already also tells you in the command line if it's missing. It tells you, okay, you need to have a version number like 010, and if you forget to update it, it tells you, okay, you already published 10. You know what I mean? And of course, I did the mistake by forgetting the readme. I was very excited for my first package. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have a new version with okay, I added the readme now. So I decided to make it from scratch and to unpublish it first. And also unpublish it by one command. You only have to write npm unpublish. And it tells you, are you sure? And it tells you, you need to force to do that. But yes, I also know how to force push, so I did npm unpublish force, and then you're not allowed to do that to republish again for 24 hours. But if other people would already have downloaded in that 1 minute this package, that won't work anymore, and this is a problem. So as well as in your job role, as well as an open source software developer, we have kind of authority and should always make sure that we do our things in our best intentions. But mistakes can happen. Of course, mistakes can happen. And the world doesn't die because of a left pad. And if the internet is offline for 2 hours, it's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. NPM publishing a package is really incredibly, we just had to do that at work as well. And it was really, I mean, it was just opening up our UI library that's completely built in Vue as well. Yeah, we decided we were having a lot of issues. Well, it derived from having the issues of, pulling it just from a GitHub repository. But we decided just to open it up and publish on NPM. And really all it took was, even if I made one small change, I'll just have to publish it with a version number. But really just NPM publish takes you to your account and then pop it up a version number, and there you have it. So it's a fairly simple process.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We actually have an NPX card in Frontend Foxes that you can grab. It's just Frontend Foxes /card is an NPX card. It's like a business card.
Okay.
And just you can give it a try though. Why not?
Okay. Let's see.
NPX Frontend Foxes.
Nice.
Does it work?
NPX Frontend Foxes card. Sorry, what was that?
It's just NPX Frontend Foxes.
Okay. Let's see.
Now I want to make sure it was working too. I'm not sure. As I raise these issues. NPX Frontend Foxes. 35,000 dependencies.
Nice.
Fun things to do. Oh yeah, there it is. It's our little card.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love the color schemes as well.
Good fun.
Yeah.
Fun toys. Fun toys. Software is fun.
Okay.
Right.
Shall we, do a wrap up now if there are no any other questions?
Reach out to us on social media, and I'll send socks to folks who are interested in. What's the hashtag again, Jariah?
Right. You can see it right on the banner, right?
That's the
Yeah, because I've been swapping the banners in and out. So
that's it. Awesome.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for your questions, and Vanessa for your thoughts and sharing all about your experience in open source, as well as you, Jen. So unbelievable that it's October. A few days in, 7 days into fall, which is my favorite season, but it's looking a little foggy. We're still getting the wildfire smokes.
Still
up here. Yeah, we are. It wasn't as bad as a week ago where it was just blazing orange sky because it's coming up. Yeah, in Vancouver, it's not. We have really one of the best air qualities, so it's a bit
that's
trending.
Tough.
Yeah. Especially.
New England fall is always the best. So we got beautiful colors this year.
Yeah, can't wait to cozy up and no big nice fall coats this year as much. Yeah, and caved in, but
yeah, for sure.
Hopefully, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I can't wait really for a time to really be able to meet you both in person. Hopefully next year when we're able to start to attend conferences again.
Right.
Yeah. Well, until then, we'll keep this session open, for upcoming episodes and interesting discussions. So, make sure you tweet us if you have any ideas of discussion topics you want us to bring up.
Thank you, Frontend Foxes Canada. Thank you, Frontend Foxes ACH.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Enjoy.